Oh, there's my hand.
Oye, ahorita te llamo. Porque ahora estoy yo en una presentación de una compañerita de la escuela.
Somebody's trying to get into your meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh,
Now somebody's
let me
calling
just
me.
text my mom.
Is that right? Ready? Oh, here's for you.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Somebody else is trying.
Oh,
You know what? You should enable so you don't have to do that.
I can't do that right now.
Right now, yeah.
What? You can do it. Like they can access automatically. You kind of change that.
While I'm in the meeting?
No, just before.
Oh, right.
Now, kind of like
All right.
enable the
Well,
waiting room.
I think we'll just start and then people can come in as they come in because I have a limit on my time. So thank you everyone for being here. This is my showcase, my final presentation as part of Moody, and I am done student teaching officially on Tuesday. So this is the last hurrah. All right, can everyone see this in person and online? Okay, so this is my best evidence showcase. So first, I'm just going to go over some lessons that God has taught me while I've been here. That is my house, in case you don't know, in Winfield. And throughout this whole experience, I would say the main thing that I've learned is that God's plans are higher than my plans, and He knows what's best. If you would have told me that I would be in South Dakota right now, I would say, no, that's not going to happen. I'm going to be student teaching at home. But God didn't have that plan, and I could talk for an hour probably on just how I got here, so I won't do that. But just through all of these things and being here and all of these experiences, I've really learned that His plans are higher than mine. So when I got here, there was no teacher. Well, there was a teacher, but there was also not a teacher in my grade. And so I stepped up and said, I could teach, I think. I could teach with a little bit of support. And so I did. Miss Bachman and Mrs. Johnson have been very kind to me while I've been here and have supported me, but I have had to do a lot of things on my own that maybe a lot of the other Moody student teachers have not had to do. But that is how I learned. Personally, I learned by doing things. And so looking back, I wouldn't have it any other way. I really wouldn't. It has been amazing. And so then last week, that's my car back home. And I have this on here because my mom crashed my car while I was here. And I was very, very upset. And that also was another thing, though, that taught me that just to trust God, and He has a plan and He'll make a way. And I have a beautiful car back home waiting for me now. So thank you, Mom and Dad. And another thing that I've learned while being here real well is flexibility. I think that this has been a flexible semester. So when I got here, like I said, there was no teacher. And it was just, here you go, come on in. Here, you want to set up your room? Well, and I wanted to do that all anyways, and it was a great experience. So I got to set up my own room, and then we started classes, and I thought, all right, this is going to be great. We started classes. We were, I don't quite remember. It's been a blur of 3 months, but I'm pretty sure we started online. And then pretty soon we went in person. And it was, whoa, okay, welcome kids. Now how do I adjust my teaching style really quick to being in person? And then a few days later, we had to go back online. And whoa, this is like a roller coaster ride. How do I adjust this? And so I adjusted it back to being online, and then we went back in person for a few more days, and I had to adjust that again, and then now we've been back online for a while now. And also, as I noted in the beginning, I mentioned my 2 cooperating teachers, Miss Bachman and Mrs. Johnson, and most Moody students have 1 cooperating teacher, but I had to move about halfway through student teaching out of my duplex because I needed to study under a certified teacher, And so Mrs. Johnson said that I could come stay with her and that she would take over as my cooperating teacher. And we just rolled with it. We are being flexible, all about flexibility. And then to top everything off, we got a new administrator, and there's a whole series of events that went on with that, with the new administration. And my friend, my very good friend, left. And I don't know, he's actually supposed to be on here, but anyways, but he left, and it was very sad for me because the administration said one thing and he would say another, and I didn't know who to believe, but I knew that I was called to stay here. And when he left, that was just really difficult. But the upside of that was I had a lot more time to focus on my student teaching, to focus on the kids, to pour into them. I've done Saturday tutoring and had kids show up for that. And I would not have been able to do that if he was here, probably, because I would be spending time with him. Oh, yeah, I'm going to go to the next slide. Okay, maybe. All right, so my philosophy of education is I like to create instruction which affirms the worth of the individual. On Zoom, I've had a little bit of instances of bullying, but it's been a great, actually, about 8 weeks ago, I told a little girl when there was a comment made, and I said, you know, when you say that about somebody, that they are ugly or they're not smart, I said, I told her that God, and that you're saying that God did not create a smart person, or that God created somebody that was not pretty. And God never makes mistakes, and God made everyone just the way that he wanted them to be made. And so when I had that instance of bullying about a week ago, that little girl actually spoke up and quoted me and what I had told her, which was, I really thought that was neat. And so I also like to do student-centered learning and activities. And so what I mean by that is, obviously they're second grade, I don't just set them up to do everything on their own. I teach them the concept, but then I took them out of the Abeka book and out of the Abeka curriculum November 1st and haven't looked back. I've had a lot of fun, and you'll see throughout the rest of my presentation everything that I've done with the kids since I've pulled them out of the curriculum. And honestly, I think they have learned more. I've given them assessments since then, and they have done very well on the assessments. So I've been very happy about that. Another thing is the integration between subjects. And maybe Ms. Bachman will laugh at this one, but Abeka doesn't do a wonderful job of integrating subjects. So when I said goodbye to the curriculum on November 1st, I was able to do a lot more of that because I wasn't tied down to this curriculum that, and you know, maybe you used Abeka when you were a kid, or I think my mom used it with me, but I'm just not a big fan of it. But that's not what this presentation's about, so I'll move on from bashing that. But I do believe in integrating between subjects, and I'll talk about that more. Next one is positive behavior management, or just positive affirmations when I'm working with the kids. I found, especially with one girl, you know, I'll say to her, oh, that's not quite right. And then she'll shut down for the whole lesson and she won't come back very well. But then I tried to say, well, why don't we think this through? Can you tell me how you came to that answer? And she'll start to think about it. And about 4 out of 5 times, and I just started this recently, but about 4 out of 5 times she'll come to her own conclusions of why she got it wrong. And so that really helps her to be encouraged. The next one is making learning fun. Well, we do all sorts of fun things. We do videos, they make clocks. Well, I tried that. They lost their materials before they could make the clocks, but they did actually, I had them just draw the clock out on a piece of paper. And so that was very beneficial, I think, for them. Or I did the 10 frame where you have a box with 10 little squares in there and they put the 10 dots in there, and that really showed them what place value was and how 110 works. And I was a little bit of and I'm like this with myself, and this is probably something I should work on, but if I don't get something, I don't put it away till later. I work on it and work on it and work on it until it's done. And so that's kind of, we did do some different things between the place value, but I thought that was really important for them to understand. So I did keep on coming back to that. The next one is a scaffolded approach. And so, like I mentioned, you know, I will tell them something, then we'll do it together, we'll work, and then after we're done working it together, they'll do some problems on their own. And then the last one, or for this slide, is differentiation. And I've done a lot of differentiation, and that has been really good for the students and also really time consuming for me. I have the kids on 3 different spelling lists, 3 different reading groups, 3, well, no. I was gonna put them in 2 different math groups, but the child that was gonna go into the other math group hasn't been there in the last few days, so I haven't had a chance to do that yet. All right, so this is the in-task standards. There's 10 of them, and I need to go through all of them and how I met them. So this is the teacher understands how learners grow and develop. And basically that I recognize that depending on the age, how they learn might vary. And so to vary my instruction, depending on physical and social, emotional learning and developing appropriate and challenging learning experiences. So we do, in 2nd grade, they're very visual. They like to see everything and to feel it. And so I do a lot of songs. And actually, I had this song playing today, and I had a different song playing the other day because I play different songs. And the young girl says, can we watch that video on the guy that comes on and shouts on the screen? And that was the exclamation video, talking about how we use exclamation points. And she was so excited about that. So I try to also incorporate what they tell me or what they want to do into their learning. And I needed them to review all of the different types of sentences. So I said, sure, we could play that video. And then this is actually an interactive virtual clock, but I can't move it because it's just an image right now. And so I would move the hands and move the hour hand. And I'm very excited because now they know how to tell time to the nearest 5 minutes, which is really exciting for me because that's way later in the curriculum. But since I don't do the curriculum, I can do what I want. Well, within reason. All right, the next, and then this is here is a die, and that's also a virtual die, but I can't do that either. Okay, I'm just gonna, you know what? There we go. All right, so also I had students visually represent the 10 frames, and then, like I said, they've done time, they do money, so they'll put little circle and put a P on there for a penny and dime, and then I have them do their own problems, so they make up their own change that they want to have, and then they make it and tell me how much change they have. And this is also the 10s and the 1s. We did a lot of different activities with that. So the teacher uses understanding of individual and diverse cultures and communities to ensure inclusive learning that enables each learner to meet high standards. That was a little bit what I talked about when I say differentiation and making everything difficult for each learner. So this is some of the books that they read. This is actually a book that we read together. Oh, whoa, go back. Sorry about that. All right, and this is Noodlehead See the Future, and I just want to talk about this book because I had a student that, she said that she liked reading, which was odd to me because she didn't really want to read all that much. And so, but she said she liked it. So I went through different books, and she will come on the screen and say, can we read that Noodlehead book today? I want to read the Noodlehead book with you. And she loves it. And we actually found out that it's not just one book and it's a whole series. And so she said, oh, can you put all the books in my assignment so that I can read them? And I said, sure. So just to see that love of reading come, and she's making great progress right now. And then this is another kid. He's in kindergarten. Well, he's in 2nd grade, but he's in kindergarten reading level. And one thing that I really do like about virtual instruction is that I have a chance to work with one-on-one or in small groups, and they don't see what the other students are working on while they're working on their instruction. So he loves reading. He's halfway through kindergarten, but he loves my books. But I'm afraid that if we were in person, it might be a little bit different because he might be discouraged when he sees everybody else reading at such high levels. And actually, he's come a long way with his reading. And this is my advanced student. He's in 4th grade reading. And so I try to challenge him as well. He reads about tornadoes. I'm actually very surprised, but a lot of my kids like to read science books and social studies. And so that's fun too. This is the differentiated spelling lists, and this is my highest spelling list, and this is the lowest spelling list. And so, like I said, I try to meet them where they're at. If this is what they can do, this is what they can do. But he is coming a long way. As I've been reading with him, words that he couldn't spell or that were hard for him at the beginning are easy now because he's getting that exposure to books, and he's reading, and he's becoming familiar with the words. So he's actually improving a lot. Learning environments. The teacher works with others to create environments that support individual and collaborative learning. This is a little tricky because we're on Zoom, and that encourages positive social interaction, active engagement in learning, and self-motivation. And I kind of mentioned this before when I talked about positive social interaction, when I talked about the way that God made us. I've had a lot of conversations with Mrs. Johnson, Ms. Bachman. We've shared ideas of things that we do in our classrooms that have worked. I also, right now, I have combined Bible, so that's combined classes. We have very small classes. I have 4 kids on a good day, and Mrs. Johnson has about 4 kids on a good day. And so looks like there we had 6 kids, which is actually pretty decent for us. And so we also have Zoom calls with other teachers. So we had one today. We call those professional learning communities. And then students work together to complete Reader's Theater. And I couldn't figure out how to put a video in here. My tech skills aren't all that great. But anyways, they have done a Reader's Theater where they read this book and they take turns and make the voices. And they really enjoy that. Actually, that was a student's idea. And like I said, when the student has a good idea, I try to implement it. She was reading one day so what happened is she was reading one day and she said something like, "Oh, you should read with me," because there was 2 different voices. And I said, "Sure." And I thought, oh, this would be a fun activity to do as a class where they can read with each other. And I picked a book that almost all of my students could read. So then also as part of this, teachers encourage students to share information about their personal lives. We sit there, they have their cat there or their dogs, and we talk and have a great time together. Just because with virtual learning, I want them to feel connected. I want them to want to come on, want to see me. Actually, one of the students had finished today and she came back on and I go, "Oh, did you need something or did you just want to hang around?" And she said, "I just want to hang out." Like, okay, come on in. This is a great place for that too. And students also were self-motivated to write their own stories. This is not the whole story. This is about half of the story. And this student wrote about 2 sentences at the beginning of the year, but she wanted to write a story. And so, that was the assignment, was to write a story, but she felt pretty excited about it. And now she's talking about how she wants to write chapter 2 and do all sorts of fun things. And this is also, I did a lesson on soft C, and so one of my students, he came up with all of these words on his own that had the soft C in them. And that was the assignment because I wanted to see how well they understood what I was asking them to do. So then content knowledge, this is about if I understand the central concepts and structures of the disciplines that I teach, and that I make these aspects accessible and meaningful to learners. So here we have math lessons, and they're made meaningful to learners through we draw on real world experiences. I mentioned, has anyone had a gumball before? Or, went to the gumball machine and put a quarter in there and turn it. And I said, yep, and that's a quarter. And if you want a gumball, you need a quarter. You can't have a dime or a nickel. And so I would put different amounts on the board and ask them if they could buy a quarter. If they could buy a gumball. And they would say yes or no. And time, actually one of the students have a clock right in back of them. And she goes, after the lesson, she goes, "We were just learning about you today." To her clock. And so I think she pretty much, understands now that when she's in her home, she can look at that clock and, actually it has Roman numerals, so maybe not yet, but we're going to learn about Roman numerals later in the year, so probably later she will be able to. So and the reading lessons involve, like I said, well, actually I haven't said this, involve applying what they are learning through reading into creating their own stories. And so I did a whole lesson. Actually, I asked Miss Bachman when she went to the school to get the reading, or I asked Amy, my roommate, Amy, to get the book from Miss Bachman with the reading curriculum. And I got the book and I was sorely disappointed because it basically just said, read these pages in the book. And I thought, what kind of reading curriculum is this? I need ideas for like beginning, middle, end, and teaching those sort of concepts in reading. And there was nothing. So I came up with my own thing, and I did something on character, setting, beginning, middle, end. And then at the end of that unit, to tie it all up, I had them write their own stories. And so that's her whole story, I believe. And it's a little bit difficult, I will admit, to edit students' work online. Very difficult. And I tried, and I gave comments to them on Google Classroom and had them look at it, and then they would kind of modify their story and change it because they like changed it completely, the story. And so it would have other errors because they changed it completely. And I was like, just get the one that you did yesterday. And they just got whatever one. But you know, they're writing, and they're coming a long way because they're writing. So handwriting also involves creating projects. So the book, according to the book, it's just here's A, here's B, here's C, write what it says. And I thought, okay, they've already learned all of that. I want them to now apply this knowledge in deeper ways than just copying. So we've done a lot of handwriting activities. And I asked them what they want to be when they grow up, and they actually really enjoyed that. She says that she wants to be a teacher, and he said he wants to be a soldier. So I thought that was neat. And then in phonics, they applied the rules they are learning to their handwriting. So, and spelling is made meaningful through handwriting too. You know, when they're writing things, sometimes they'll ask, oh, how do I spell that? Or how do I spell this? And then they can spell it the same way throughout their writing and gain a better grasp of how they're spelling. All right, application of content. The teacher understands how to connect concepts and use differing perspectives to engage learners in critical thinking, creativity, and collaborative problem solving. So this is how I've gotten resources, a lot of resources. And maybe after this presentation here, some teachers will ask me about these resources because I haven't shared all of them. This is Get Epic, and this is what I use for reading. It's not a Christian curriculum, and I will talk about that a little bit too, but I do like it because they can sit there with their book and I can sit there with my book and watch what they're doing and hear them reading, and if they're making mistakes I can correct them. And to be honest, I'm just going to be honest, I forgot the reading books when I first came out here to Leota's house, Mrs. Johnson's house, so I thought I need something to do with the kids because we can't just not do reading. And since then, I've had plenty of opportunities to go back and get the books, and I've chosen not to because I do find this way of reading more effective. And this over here is extra math. A lot of these students really struggle with their addition facts, subtraction facts, and multiplication facts when you get up to 4th grade. And this is Johnson's class, I've noticed. And I've also noticed some 4th graders counting with their fingers because they have not yet mastered those facts. And so I have implemented this into my curriculum at least a couple times a week, and it does seem to be helping. They enjoy it. The guy is funny, and he comes on, and they can type it with him and have contests with him to see if they can beat him in getting the math facts. And then when they get the math fact right, they get a smiley face. So it seems to be really helping. This is also over here is Teachers Pay Teachers. That's a great resource. I use that quite a bit to gain something besides workbooks and stuff like that to do. Over here is Boom Cards. That's super fun. That's interactive. You click on the card and it'll like read you. Or this card, this was when we were studying punctuation. And so it gave you a sentence and it says, what should I put at the end? And on the card it had a period, a question mark, or an exclamation mark. And you drag the mark and put it in the box and it would say correct. And they really enjoyed that. So that's about what I've been using. So this is the multiple modes of learning. So in math, I have used a number line, especially for one student. When I work with him on his own, it really seems to help him. But I have done it for all of them. I've used the 10 frames, like I said, with you'll see that later in the presentation. Manipulative blocks. Actually, I did use the manipulative blocks, like the base 10 blocks with the 1s and the 10s and the 100s, and they did not get it. It just was not working. So I decided, all right, let's try to do something else. We've done a lot of math fact families. I would like to go back in the future, though, and go, right now they're in like 12s and 13s, but these kids can't even do 5s and 6s and 7s or 8s and 9s. And so I would like to go back and reteach that. Not reteach that, because I mean, they never did that really with me, but teach it nonetheless. Oh, that's one of my students there. It's kind of hard on Zoom, so it takes about 20 minutes for one Zoom session to download to my computer. I'm sure a lot of these teachers can understand that struggle. And so when I was working on this presentation, it was a little bit of a struggle for me because I couldn't find, or I didn't have time to download 10 Zoom sessions from the last 100 days, or no, I'm sorry. It feels like 100 days from the last 65 days. It's only been 65. But anyways, and I didn't want to download all of them every day because that would just plug up my whole computer. So I did get some pictures. So in phonics, we do when we did subject and predicate, for example, they would first identify it, and then they would create some sentences. And then I would have them make a sentence and leave out part of the sentence and tell me which part of the sentence was left out, if it was the subject or the predicate. That was very difficult for them at first. We kept on working on it, and they can do that now with ease. They like that. Spelling. So at first I had them do the words 3 times, and that's what that is, in different colors. That was fun for them. And I would do the activities in the book. And when we went virtual, they asked me, can we just type our spelling words? And I thought, sure, why not? If you're excited about that and that'll get you to do your spelling, I don't see a problem with that. Plus, that incorporates typing lessons. So they can now get spelling and typing in the same lesson. All right. And so the handwriting, that's actually one thing that we did in handwriting toward the beginning when they were working on their letters, was I gave her a little pencil and she would put it in the Play-Doh and make the letters, and that was fun. And yep, so writing, we have writing stories. We answered prompts such as, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or one time, and I think it's later in the presentation, I asked, who would you like to be president? And I love her answer. Her answer is wonderful. Assessment, multiple methods of assessment. I didn't have barely any of assessment besides workbook pages until I took them out of the workbook pages. And so I did a lesson on the 10 Commandments. It lasted 4 days because one of the days we were off school. So I did like 2 in one day and then 3 in another day. There's this thing, it's like one God, don't bow down to an idol, watch what you say about God. And so, and it goes all the way up to 10 with your fingers, and they really liked that. And then I had a song that went with it. And it was so cute because Mrs. Johnson had a couple girls here that stayed with us for a little bit. And while they were here, they would, when the lesson was going, they wouldn't really sing it. But then after the lesson, throughout the rest of the day, I would, the 10 Commandments, and they would be singing it. And it just blessed my heart because it seemed like they were a little bit shy, maybe in class, but outside it was sticking in their minds. So that was really encouraging. Math assessments include solving problems. They did regrouping. They created and solved their own less than and greater than problems. That was while we were in school. Actually, they picked numbers and they put them in 10 frames. We've done a lot of different things. Phonics assessments includes writing their own sentences with phonics words in them. And that's some of the assessments that I've done, where I gave them words and then they have to put, so the word, if the word was robbed, they'd have to change the word and put the suffix on, robbing, and then make a sentence. And they did very well on that too. Let's see, I plan instruction that supports every student in meeting rigorous learning goals by drawing upon knowledge of content areas, curriculum, cross-disciplinary skills, and pedagogy, as well as knowledge of learners in the community context. Yeah, so lessons are based off of previous lessons and knowledge. They are now. It wasn't as much at the beginning, but they are now. So this was, here we have the characters, the day that I talked about characters. And I went through a story and told them the characters in it. Then we practiced it together. And then this one he did on his own. And then after a while, oh no, after a while, he actually got into that. They think of rhyming words, and then they're supposed to write a poem. That still needs to come in. Spelling is also based off of previous words. So I do have one advanced speller, and I'll say to him if he's struggling with a word, well, do you know how to spell this? And he'll say yes, and he'll spell it. And then I'll say, well, this word's just like that. Use that same spelling pattern to spell this word. And it really helps him to memorize the words. Math builds off students' number sense. So they eventually regrouped, that's right there. Sorry, those pictures are kind of small. That's the 10 frames. And then eventually they got to learning how to regroup and do their math. And do, no, not all their math, but they regroup. Students learned coin values one at a time, and then they build off previous knowledge there because they learned it one at a time. So when I say, okay, well, we've done the penny, penny's 1, nickel's 5, dime is 10, and they'll build it off of that. And so, like I said, with the knowledge of the subject and predicates, first they identify their subjects and predicates, just which one's the subject, which one's the predicate, and then they build off of that knowledge, like which one is missing, which is harder to do. Oh, and then also I did one on sentences and the 4 types of sentences. And okay, today we're going to study declarative, and then we're going to study interrogative, and that took them a long time to think about. They didn't know what a question was. Remember what a question was, or a statement. It was kind of odd, but that was okay. And now they really do. I mean, I asked them, well, is this, am I asking you something? And they go, oh, yes, it's a question. Let's see, lessons include cross-disciplinary approaches. Yep, so after reading a book, students create their own books, for example. So that's reading and writing. They read the book, and then they can create their own book. Or I've had them the last couple days read a book and then summarize. They write what that story was about. Spelling, students, like I said, they learn more about spelling through their reading and writing. So when they're reading and writing, it's authentic and they can learn how to spell. Phonics, they learn phonics rules through spelling too, and they learn spelling through phonics. It kind of goes hand in hand. When you learn spelling words, I try to say, like, for this week, for example, they had a lot of neighbor, sleigh, and that E-I-G-H. And I said, see, in your spelling words, it's all E-I-G-H. Sleigh, neighbor, and it's the same sound. You need to bring it back to phonics then. Bible also is integrated into spelling through the use of Christian words and vocabulary. And also Bible is integrated, even if it's secular reading material. And this is the book that they're supposed to use to do a poem, but they haven't done that yet. All right, so this is reading also, and this is how they integrate science into the curriculum. This is how I do it. And so they read a book, and it talks about dragonflies, so they get to learn something about dragonflies. Let's see. So for spelling, like I use a variety of different instructional strategies. So I have this one, which actually Ms. Bachman taught me, which was the tall letter, short letter. And he seemed to really understand that. And then when I was in person, I had them write it 3 times. I also have them write sentences in phonics and have them write their own sentences. In math, this is all one concept. So I had them do 10 frames, the base 10 blocks, which they didn't understand, and this up here, which they also understood, where you break down a number into their 10s and 1s. And also for reading, I would either do one of 2 things. I'll read it first, then read it together, which is kind of difficult to do on Zoom because of the echo. And I also tried to do it where they could read aloud with the Get Epic person that read the book. And that didn't seem to work either because they were struggling to keep up with the person that was reading the book. But I did try that. And I also try to do easy enough books for them that they could do on their own. And I'm going to run out of time. The teacher engages in ongoing professional learning. Yes, and it uses evidence to continue to evaluate his or her practice. So here's my evidence to adapt needs, or actually this is, so this is one student's handwriting assignment. This is the other student's handwriting assignment. For them, it's really difficult for them to write just words. So that is a good and rigorous activity for them. For the other student, well, she can write words, so she needs to be writing sentences. So I have that for her. And also, this was how I used my evidence to adapt needs. This is just one example. And so this was how it was at first. I stopped the train. And this is wrong, and I'm showing it on purpose. It's I-S-T-O-P-E-D. There's supposed to be a double P, stopped the train. And so when she did it like that, I thought, I went, the Abeka curriculum, I was in the Abeka curriculum at that point. And I thought, they went over that really fast and taught like multiple endings at one time. And so I'm not surprised that she didn't understand that. So I went back. This is the same student's score a week after I had went back and done it with her. She got 100 on all of these. So I went back, retaught it, and then she was able to do it. I share information with my colleagues. They might be able to tell you all about that. I have done Get Epic, and I've mentioned that with my colleagues. I've talked about extra math a little bit with my colleagues. I taught Mrs. Johnson during the first couple weeks of school how to use some of the different features. And so I have, I told her how to archive classes, and I actually haven't done this one yet, but I will have to do that in the next couple of days, how you can show your student, oh, actually, how to display overall grades. I have taught her that, but I do need to teach you how to show it so that your students can see their grades still. All right. Professional learning. So I read part of the principal's dissertation yesterday while I was in the principal's office for 9 hours learning from her, which was very beneficial. It was a long day, but I'm so glad I took the time to learn from her. She has a wealth of knowledge, and I was really happy. And this is also one thing I watched, Leading Virtual Clusters, and that was great, and that was supposed to be deleted. All right, so the last one is leadership and collaboration, and collaborating with learners, families, colleagues, everyone. And so I became the teacher, like I said, during the first weeks of school, and I took all the responsibility, or most of the responsibility, for student learning and putting the grades in. And Ms. Bachman was very kind and did do the attendance for me. And I have since had to take over that as well because we're not together anymore, so I've been doing my own attendance. Also today, I engaged in professional collaboration with my other colleagues, and I was able to lead the discussion today, which was very fun. I was very glad that I got the opportunity to do that. I also partner with parents to assess their child's growth, and I work with them to provide support and intervention. Like I mentioned, I offer Saturday classes. I probably won't tomorrow, but I have in the past, and it has been very effective. But I'm worried that the children and the parents are relying on that too much and on me to catch their students up on Saturday from all the work that they haven't completed during the week. So it's not a matter of grace there, of, okay, your child didn't do this one time, so I will be gracious, but a matter of entitlement. And I don't really think that that's a good way for students to learn by doing everything on Saturday. And so I don't know much longer I will do that. But I did ask one of the parents that their child did all the work that I assigned. They always do, and I felt like it was a little bit too much work that I assigned. So I asked the parent about it, and she told me how much it was, and then based on that, I adapted. I actually didn't think an hour was that good, that much, because that was the work for the whole week that she was doing that day. And so at first I thought an hour, oh, that's kind of long, but an hour really wasn't that much, and so I kept it what it was. And that is the end. We got through it with 1 minute to spare on the Zoom session. So that's the end. I was going to show you the something special that Mrs. Johnson and I do, but it doesn't look like we have time for that. Yep, so sorry about that. We do Baby Shark together with our students, and it's really a fun time. We both have Baby Shark t-shirts, and yeah, they really enjoy that. So thank you, everyone. You can unmute now if you like or not. It's nice to see everyone. Some people Haven't seen in a while. Nice to see you back on. Thank you for coming.
Hey,
Hey. And now we're gonna go.
congratulations.
Thank you. And that's my roommate, actually, Amy. So, in case you
Hi,
haven't met,
roommate. Hi.
yeah, that's my roommate, Amy.